You're listening to In Search of the Fruit Train, the story of the Amiens Branch Railway Line, 1919 to 1974. This is part 3.
In November 1966, Mr. H.E. Coates, manager of the Transport Department, made a report on the Granite Belt fruit train to a meeting of the Deciduous Sectional Group Committee held in Stanthorpe. Mr. Coates expressed concern at the lack of support for the branch line. His report stated that if tonnages continued to fall, his department would undoubtedly consider closing the line.
All the loading of fruit and vegetables for the Brisbane market had to be loaded by 9 o'clock. That never worked out right because by the time the train came in from Amiens, it would be about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and by about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, our loading was done. The loading was done on the train, and when it got to Cottonvale, it had to wait for the train to come in from Wollongara, and they used to top up the wagons because every little railway station on the branch line only had 1 or 2 wagons, but Pausiers expanded very fast. Since then, road transport moved in. That was the end of the trains later on.
The Hazlitt family were major customers of the line. Alec Hazlitt describes some of the issues that led to the closing of the line.
We were one of the bigger growers along the line, and we had a fairly long season, so we were fairly integral to the train's operation. They had 4 personnel, and when it was steam, they used to spend the night at Amiens, so it was a big day and a lot of people, a lot of wages involved. So I guess the writing was always on the wall. But for perishable vegetables, we came to realise in a hot climate that the cool chain was very important. We built a cold store, and we wanted to keep stuff cool until it got to the markets, where it went in another cold store. The railway were not prepared to provide refrigerated wagons, and because it was such a slow train, it would depart about 2:30 in the afternoon. It was very hot in a hot wagon and wouldn't get till the markets till the next day. So it was not good for perishable goods. And also it cost us a lot of labour. So we went from hand loading wagons to putting stuff on pallets, and you slip it straight into the van and unloaded by one person at the other end. And, 20 minutes you could unload a semi-trailer. Do that in the train, it took half a dozen people in a couple of hours. So the writing was always on the wall, and that's what saw the demise of the branch line.
There were problems at the Brisbane end too that made the rail line unworkable in the long term.
When you got to the other end, the terminus of the rail wasn't at Rockley markets, so that required another truck to unload it onto the truck, take it to the markets, unload it off the truck. So the damage done to the produce and the time taken and the labour involved was behind the times.
Engines used on the branch line changed over the years. The light standard earth-packed line was originally restricted to B13 engines. However, by 1929, B15 class locomotives were allowed. The highway crossed the line twice at Cottonvale, resulting in much whistling at the level crossings.
Now, I remember in the fruit season, when the loads were extra heavy, would have been in the 1950s, I reckon. Anyway, they used the branch line engine attached to the Sydney Mail to give an extra pull up the grade to Dalveen.
In order to introduce the heavier C16 and C17 engines on the line, in 1960 crushed metal was brought in to stabilise the track in swampy areas. The speed limit was then increased from 12 miles per hour to 15. Further upgrading of the branch line allowed 60-tonne diesel-electric locomotives to operate from February the 1st, 1967. The Cottonvale to Amiens branch line closed in 1974, having served its community well by providing access to markets for many years. The line was no longer useful to the people who lived and farmed along it. The Mengel family, who had lived in the Amiens station house since 1950, were threatened with eviction.
I think it's worth recalling that when the rail did eventually close, the railway department wanted to pull up everything and sell and get what they could for whatever was around. And Ted and Elsie Mengel had been part of that railway establishment for 25 years, and that was their home. They lived in the railway house, and the intention was for them to be evicted and the house moved for sale. And the community, and I think my father in particular, saw red and started writing letters and canvassing for the fact that this was very unfair treatment for some people who had been very loyal servants to the railway department. To their credit, the right people listened and the house still stands there today.
After the closure, the line was dismantled and sold off.
When the railways closed, it was up for sale, and a group from Bundaberg bought the railway between Cottonvale and Amiens. We bought a lot of those rails, cut into 12-foot pieces for making grids.
The fruit industry of the soldier settlement was given a productive start with the building of the Cottonvale to Amiens Branch Line, which went on to serve the farmers in the district from 1919 to 1974. If you drive from Cottonvale to Amiens today, if you drive slowly and look carefully, you can see traces of the branch line. If you stop and walk a while, you may notice part of the raised roadbed visible through the bush. Pieces of rail remain hidden in the grass. Old sleepers slumber in the leaf litter, and rotting bridge timbers stand in the reeds by the creek. There are not many orchards to be seen out along the old line today, but the signs which read Cottonvale, Flebay, Pozieres, Bullecourt, Passchendaele, Bapaume, Messines and Amiens are still there to remind us of a time when B13s and 15s, C16s and 17s and their diesel counterparts worked along the branch line. If you stand quietly and listen, you might hear the sound of a whistle in the distance if you go in search of the fruit train.
When I was young I used to wait down at the railway gates, and when the fruit train came along I'd jump on with me mates. The drivers knew our faces and they'd let us shovel coal, but the coal would end up on the plate, we'd miss the firebox hole. Cottonvale, Flebay, Pozieres, Bullecourt and Passchendaele, Bapaume, Messines and Amiens on the 42-pound rail, for 12 miles and 25 chains through orchards, scrub and pines, riding on the fruit train on the Amiens Branch Line. The golden orchards and we'd whistle through the pines. There used to be 6 sidings, but now they've closed the line. There's not a trace of track from Amiens to Cottonvale, but I remember golden days on the 42-pound rail. Cottonvale, Flebay, Pozieres, Bullecourt and Passchendaele, Bapaume, Messines and Amiens on the 42-pound rail, for 12 miles and 25 chains through orchards, scrub and pines, riding on the fruit train on the Amiens Branch Line. Cottonvale, Flebay, Pozieres, Bullecourt and Passchendaele, Bapaume, Messines and Amiens on the 42-pound rail, for 12 miles and 25 chains through orchards, scrub and pines, riding on the fruit train on the Amiens Branch Line. For 12 miles and 25 chains through orchards, scrub and pines, riding on the fruit train on the Amiens Branch Line.
In Search of the Fruit Train, the Amiens Branch Railway 1919 to 1974 was written and narrated by Penny Davies. Enid Hamilton, Gino Zanatta, Marlene Muir, Jeff McMahon and Alec Haslett told their own stories. Other voices, in order of appearance, were Bill Humble, Jim Armstrong, Nick Hilton, Lee Williams, Tim Battle, Jeff Harden, Tim Page, Doreen Watson, Peter Hazelgrove, Kerry Marie, Peter Morris and Ocean Wilson. The Whistling Train and Ridin' on the Fruit Train were written and performed by Penny Davies and Roger Eilert. In Search of the Fruit Train was produced by Penny Davies. Technical production by Roger Eilert. I'm Tricia Armstrong. This has been a Restless Music production.